Hello, and thank you for tuning in to Fed Up, your no BS nutrition podcast. I'm your host, Kayla Marie, certified personal trainer and nutrition specialist, working with clients since 2014. After swimming up diet culture's bullshit stream for so many years, I am fed the absolute up with how miserable it's making people feel when we are supposed to be getting healthier. This podcast is here to help you gain your sanity back so you can stop yo-yoing once and for all and finally learn how to trust yourself so you can enjoy food again without fear or shame while still getting to your health goals. My aim is to teach you how to detect the BS in not just the food and diet industries, but in all realms of life, because I know that, like me, we are all just a little fed up. So without further ado, let's dive into today's episode. Okie dokie, artichoke. We are talking about intuitive eating today. Yay! And this is kind of a definitely newer concept for a lot of people, but it has been out and about in the space for a couple of years, so many of you may have been hearing it. And it gets some shit sometimes because a lot of people hear that it's like eating whatever you want, whenever you want, with no regards to yourself or quality nutrition or other consequences. Or it's rebelling against diet culture so hard, there's no food rules, meaning that you can binge and eat junk all the time. And what happens if you're supposed to listen to your body, but your body's telling you to eat chocolate and pizza and candy and blah, 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 right? So that's not what intuitive eating is. So what intuitive eating is, it was created by two dietitians, and how they describe it is a self-care framework that integrates instinct, emotion, and rational thought to foster a healthy relationship with food and body. So that being said, it is not eat whatever you want, whenever you want, however you want. It's paying attention to your instinct and your intuition, sure, but also looking at how emotion affects your eating behaviors and integrating rational thought and food knowledge into those choices. So let's go into these three things a little bit deeper here. When we talk about instinct or your intuitive eating, right? We are essentially talking about your hunger, fullness, and satisfaction. This is the interoception of hunger and fullness cues. This is what everyone is hung up on, but this is the hardest and last phase, like the last graduation stage of intuitive eating is being able to really listen to these cues. But these are incredibly difficult to start here, so this isn't where we start. I know that it seems like it because it's named after it, but again, that's the goal. That's not the first step. So this is also incredibly difficult if you are neurodivergent or if you've had 20 plus years of starving and binging and being told what to eat and when to stop and being told to finish your plate, right? And you probably stopped listening to your hunger and fullness cues if you were born with them when you were like 8. Okay, so there's that, or even much younger. Or again, if you are neurodivergent, it can be very difficult for someone who's autistic or ADHD or maybe has other medical conditions to tell if they are hungry or full. This also includes people who have metabolic conditions who they are prime candidates for like a GLP-1 medication because that works by telling your brain you're full. So there is a lot that goes into the hunger and fullness cues that you are not going to start here. So let's move on to emotion and rational thought, the two that everyone forgets that we are actually talking about when we're referring to intuitive eating. You have to acknowledge the emotional side of eating. They call it the comfort, celebration, and connection. You have to explore your why for eating, your emotions, your coping mechanisms, and how integrated your food and feelings are. They call it expanding your emotional toolkit so you don't just turn to food to cope with your stress, right? But it's also acknowledging that sometimes we eat for pleasure, and that's okay. Food is more than fuel. It doesn't just have to be bodybuilder style, eat the bare minimum nutrients. You can eat for pleasure. You can eat the cake with grandma. You can have food that tastes good and be quote unquote low quality nutrition, because food is more than just that. But if you don't get a grip on your emotional turmoil that leads you to binging on food, or again, this a lot of shame and guilt that will kind of lead to our food choices, then you're never going to get past, the first step here. And then rational thought. This is actually where we start, I think, because without food, body, and health knowledge, you're not going to be able to make informed choices. You won't be able to even tap into your emotional toolkit and then start listening to your hunger cues if you don't have the knowledge to begin with, right? So first of all, thank you for listening to my podcast. You're gaining knowledge every time. And sorry if you just heard my Alexa there. She's warning me of the incoming rainstorm. So, which actually is important because I have a bed sheet outside. Okay, so rational thought is going to acknowledge your value of food, both in a nutrient context and in cultural context. Again, it's using your brain to say, hey, maybe I'm craving this, but I don't have to eat that. I can make a more informed choice because I probably need some fiber and protein and carbs. And there's no shame attached to it. It's just rational thought, right? Or being able to say, okay, I'm not hungry now, but maybe I should eat because the next time I'm going to be able to eat is like 10 hours from now, right? So using your rational thought to know what goes into food, to be able to know how much food you're eating, and to be able to say, oh, I can eat ice cream and I can eat, things that quote unquote diet culture says are bad. I can still eat those things and they don't have any control over me. And I can also say no to those things and everything's going to be okay. So this is actually the first phase of your intuitive eating journey, is gaining the knowledge, right? And then you've got to get rid of the diet culture, don't eat this, don't eat that, and replace it with, I eat this because I need XY nutrients. It also tastes satisfactory to me, and it's what I want and need right now. That is a good intuitive little eater, okay? So you're going to gain some knowledge, then we're going to explore your emotions and your triggers and how you're coping with stress by using food or boredom or anxiety or late night, whatever. And then you're going to start to learn to listen to your hunger cues, which again can be much more challenging for certain people. So you can't start with listening to your body if you, again, have no idea what to do with that information or even how to listen to your body. And if you've undone a lot of the intuition that we naturally have as humans, it's going to take some work. It is going to take some practice. We also have to unlearn how to eat due to how our parents fed us. And you can go back and listen to another episode I did. It's episode 20. It's called Who Taught You to Eat Like That, where I go over the 4 parental feeding styles. And really, we form our relationships with food essentially between ages 3 and 10. So no, it is not your fault. Then we hit puberty and we start to act out because we have more independence around food. And then you see more eating disorders, hiding food, binging food, skipping meals, first times dieting. Like, I have clients that are like, yeah, I started my first diet at 9, especially if you have like a parent or an older sibling who tends to diet or, do these things. So real quick review, you have your authoritarian, or I call it the dictator, high control, low responsiveness to child. This is clear, strict rules about what you eat, what you don't eat, aka almond mom, and does not consider the child's needs. It's like force you to eat, finish your plate, right? Hey, we don't allow that in this house. We don't eat that type of food, that kind of thing. Like your mom's or your dad's or your older sibling, whoever, it's probably your mom, sorry, but it is. If they are inflicting a ton of control over what you're eating or what everybody else is eating, like that is 100% going to backfire and lead to binge and starving cycles, or your child hiding food, right? Because you're not allowing them to eat. Then you also have the opposite, permissive, indulgent, low control, high responsiveness, whatever you want. Maybe lots of snacks, processed food. Maybe it's just like, hey, whatever you want for dinner. Whatever the child wants, gets. There's no clear boundaries or expectations around food. And this is a little different than the uninvolved or negligible parent who has low control, low responsiveness. They are pretty detached from the feeding process, little guidance or structure. And I'm not saying that they are a negligent parent. They just might not be around for meal times. They might have food in the house, but it's a fend for all. Or again, maybe you have an older sibling in the house and they're supposed to be making you lunch and there's really no structure. Here, have some chips. So that could be, also leading to binging, starving, or just they have zero control around food. There's no portion control, or they just have no knowledge around food, right? So there's a lot of different ways that someone could react to that. And then you have your ideal, quote unquote, authoritative. And that's why I like to call the first one dictator, because I know authoritarian versus authoritative sound similar. Authoritative is you are high demandingness or high control and high responsiveness, meaning you have clear boundaries and expectations around food. You are in control of what is being served, but in consideration of the child's needs and very low pressure. This is what they show is the best healthy feeding style, because you usually raise into adults who can eat a variety of foods. They get a pretty diversified plate. They eat their vegetables and they don't have a problem with them. Again, giving the NDs and people with ARFID and other neurological medical conditions going on, if you are, here's what we're having for dinner, most likely maybe eating dinner together as a family, you're showing your children how you are also eating the broccoli with no actual expectation for them to eat the broccoli, meaning you're serving the broccoli every single time. Exposure is really, really good for children. But there's no pressure. It's not eat your broccoli and then you can go watch TV. Because when you bribe kids with certain foods to either do chores or behave, it makes them crave that food way more. And when you bribe them to eat certain foods like broccoli, they will dislike it more. And granted, you don't have to, persuade them to dislike ice cream, but they've done studies at this where they've done this with a smoothie that tastes pretty good. And they show any pressure at mealtime or any type of condition is not good for the developing brain because of the rebellious nature of toddlers and humans, really. That's what that means. So you can put the broccoli on the plate every single time and don't say anything. Don't even say oh, you don't have to eat it. Just don't say anything. Literally, ignore their requests for well, I don't like this, or I don't don't say anything. And you want to make it fun, low pressure. They want to see you eating it. That's kind of how babies learn what's safe to eat. So eat your vegetables as well. Eat with them. And again, don't say just try one bite, finish it, or you're not getting ice cream. It seems like it works, right? They take another bite of broccoli eventually. But you are increasing their dislike for the bribed food and increasing their desire for the treat food. Yeah. You are literally reversing the exact outcome that you want to have. And again, it seems like it works. You're like, well, if I don't pressure my kid to eat their broccoli, they would never eat their broccoli. Okay, but have you tried it? Have you tried it? No, because you just assume they're not going to eat their broccoli as soon as they say, well, I don't want that. And then you're like, well, now I have to bribe them to eat their broccoli. Listen, don't say anything and just keep serving it on their plate. And again, eat it with them. And then guess what? Eventually too, you can encourage them to play with their hands because touching the food is really helpful because it's not so scary when you know what it feels like, knows what it smells like. No pressure. You could just be like, ooh, what does it smell like? And you can smell it, right? And you could be like, ew, what does it taste like? And you could just lick it, right? You don't have to tell them well, sniff it. And don't tell toddlers what they to do. They don't like it, as you know, if you're a parent. So there's this psychology that we think is going to happen. Well, if I just give them, food on their plate and they don't have to eat their broccoli, then they're never going to eat their broccoli. I promise you, they have looked deeply into this. Again, despite, aside from the ND conditions, but even then, if you have ARFID, which is avoidant restrictive intake food disorder, it is not you're avoiding food and starving yourself to get skinny. It is a textural thing, a fear thing, and a limited food thing, so much so that nothing you do will get this child to eat. They would rather starve. A lot of times children do end up in the emergency room or in the hospital with a feeding tube because they refuse to eat. But the more you pressure these children, especially the neurodivergent ones, the worse it's going to get. If you low pressure, they can just there was one video I just saw of an autistic child who maybe about 10, and they were playing this game of seeing how long he can, hold it in his mouth and then run to the trash can and spit it out. And that was a huge step. And the mom was like, dude, just getting it in his mouth is so big for us, right? And it helped when he didn't have the pressure to eat it. He had the permission to spit it out, right? And it was a game at this point. It was fun. It was like they were all watching him, eat it at the table or put it in his mouth at the table and then run to the trash can and spit it out as fast as he could. And it was fun for them, but it was like overcoming that barrier of getting it in the mouth. And then it does kind of tell their brain, this food is not dangerous. We're going to be okay. Or it even gets them in oh, actually, this tastes good. Who knew, right? Because sometimes they won't even try it. So if you're not believing me, just try it. And sometimes it's, if you've been doing this for a couple of years, it doesn't happen in one meal. So keep that in mind. So they've shown that this happens even with foods that are considered good and sweet. So if a child is bribed with a smoothie to do chores, his desire for the smoothie increases, right? If you do your chores, you get a smoothie. If a child is bribed to drink all the smoothie to earn TV time or playtime or whatever it was that they wanted, their desire for that smoothie decreased. But we never bribe them to finish their ice cream to earn TV, right? And also because it tastes good. But also you have trained your children since they have eaten. You can't blame them. You're the one feeding them to expect dessert after dinner, after every meal maybe, or after everything savory. And then they turn into adults who now always crave something sweet after something savory. And it's much easier to overeat something sweet after you already have a full belly. It's called food-specific satiation. It is why you're full of dinner, but you still have room for dessert. But what if you offered dessert before dinner, or with an appetizer, or with dinner, and said nothing? Again, your children will probably eat the dessert first and be like, what is she doing, giving us our noodles, our veggies, and our ice cream all at the same time? They're going to eat the ice cream, right? But then they eat the ice cream first and they're like, oh, cool, I still have grapes on the table. I might eat some grapes. Or if you do this enough times, you'll notice your kids will eat the grapes first and then eat the ice cream, or they just kind of mix and match whatever they want to freaking do because they're kids. And then they stop waiting out for the dessert, right? Because right now they're waiting for the dessert. Well, can we have ice cream? Can we have ice cream? And then you give them dinner and they're like, well, I don't want to eat this because you're going to give me ice cream later. They know, and trust me, their patience, new on this earth, is a lot higher than yours. So your toddler knows, your 10-year-old knows that they're going to get ice cream with a movie, or they're going to get candy at the popcorn, and popcorn at the movie theater, whatever it may be. And they're going to get ice cream after dinner and they have to eat their broccoli or whatever it may be. And it's crazy, but when you do start serving those foods a little bit less it's a treat, it's something special, look at this crazy thing, you stop filling those children with dopamine every time you give them something. You stop filling them with a hyperactivity because it's so exciting, because it's like a party every time you give them something sweet. Or they stop waiting out for it because it's just another food. Trust me, it works really well. And I know you don't believe me, just trust me. And do it over and over and over again. It's going to get weird at first. It's probably going to get worse before it gets better. But eventually, I promise, eventually, they might put the carrots in their mouth to be a walrus. And the next thing you know, they take a bite. The next thing you know, you serve carrots and ranch with an appetizer with some fruit or with some chocolate or with whatever it may be. And they eat all of it, including the veggies, and they still eat dinner. There are ways to do this that doesn't have to make mealtime a misery, because I am working with the adults who deal with 20 plus. Oh man, I have trained people in their 60s and they're like, yeah, my first diet was when I was 9. And I'm like, you've been dieting for 50 years and you're still overweight? What's going on here? And we dig deeper. And oh my God, they grew up with the most restrictive mother, or the most I had no structure, right? Just a fend for all kind of thing. So there's so much deeper psychology that goes in here than just you eat too much, or, like, learn how to listen to your hunger cues. Like, there's so much more. So go back to episode 20. I talk way more about that, who taught you how to eat. But let's dive into the 10 principles of intuitive eating. And this is from their website, so you can look at this, and I'll link it in the show notes. But number 1, reject diet culture. Number 2, honor your hunger early. Number 3, make peace with food. This is giving yourself unconditional permission to eat, because restriction leads to binging. Number 4, discover the satisfaction factor. This is because good food, tasty food, having some crunch, putting dressings on salads makes it taste good and makes you eat it. Yay. Number 5, feel your fullness. That's an easy one to remember. Number 6, challenge the food police. This is often internal in our brains, right? It's you shouldn't have this, you shouldn't have that. Or it's also external, like shut down the haters. Shut down Aunt Sue, who's like, oh, going back for seconds, or, oh, you're having dessert before dinner. Like, shut down Aunt Sue. Say, we don't talk about other people's plates. Like, you need to get real stingy with your boundaries here, all right? Because number 7, you're going to learn to cope with your emotions with kindness, not food. You're going to learn to deal with your shame and guilt and fear, because that's the root cause of overeating a lot of times. And number 8, you're going to respect your body. This is a weight-inclusive philosophy, meaning I don't care if you're going to lose weight if you're an intuitive eater or not. That's not the goal. However, a lot of people start doing this and they end up losing weight because they stop yo-yo cycling. They stop binging, right? They stop going like over their calories and being neurotic about things. Like, it starts to get easier. I promise it does. Number 9, movement. Feel the difference, not just burn calories. Really important. People who lose weight and keep it off are active. You've got to get those steps in. You've got to get a workout in. Build muscle. Muscle is hugely metabolically active, so it's going to burn a shit ton of calories, and it's just going to make you move more, move better, feel better, like so many things. Don't focus on, I'm doing this to lose weight. I'm doing this because I hate myself and I want to be thin. Do it because it feels good. Take a few deep breaths in. Feel the endorphin rush. Is good for you. Number 10, honor your health with gentle nutrition. And I'm going to read a quote just from that last one, number 10. Make food choices that honor your well-being, taste buds, and culture, while attuning to how your body feels. Remember that you don't have to eat perfectly to be healthy. You will not suddenly get a nutrient deficiency from one snack, one meal, or one day of eating, even 1 week. It's what you eat consistently over time that matters. It might be surprising for you to learn that what you eat and how you move your body only accounts for 10% of your health. That's true. Progress, not perfection, is what counts. So, intuitive eating is integrating this instinct, emotion, rational thought. It's practicing those things so they become more natural and easy for you. You don't have to think about it so much. And when we start to reject that diet culture propaganda, when we start to gain some knowledge, some skills around real food that's based on facts and nourishing facts, like, what it does for your body and how it satisfies you and things like that, not fear and not all the things that you can't have because it's poison and diet culture propaganda to just get them to buy, get you to buy their supplement. We're exploring your triggers and emotions and why you eat, because you have to acknowledge that food is more than fuel. It's comfort and connection. It's family. It is so much more. And when we learn what our bodies are telling us and we combine that with some knowledge of the food, some knowledge of our emotions and our reactions, now we are being attuned to the nutritional needs of our bodies and our minds. So intuitive eating is knowing when to say yes and knowing when to say no. It's feeling confident in your choices, whether it's a salad or a cupcake, and knowing that they both serve their purposes in a healthy diet. It's honoring your hunger early and stopping before you get full. And again, some people have a lot of trouble telling if they are full. You can stop halfway through your meal and ask yourself. You can use your knowledge and rational thought to say, yeah, that was about a meal's worth of calories. And I'm not talking about diet culture. They're like, have a meal that's 100 calories. No, I'm talking about like have a 500 calorie lunch, not a 1,000 calorie lunch, right? Like that's important to know. but also you're eating slower, you're putting down your fork, you're chewing all the way, you're pairing your protein and your carbs and your fiber and your fats. There are ways to be conscientious of these things, even without having those internal cues, especially if you're in like a calorie deficit. Say you are trying to lose weight, eat more intuitively, you might feel a little bit hungry sometimes, right? You're in a calorie deficit. That's okay. But if you're starving all day long and then eating really fast and eating a lot at one sitting, that's what we go to work on. Maybe if we ate a little bit earlier, maybe if we ate a little bit slower, it would help, right? So there's ways to do things more intuitively as well. That doesn't require just like tracking your calories like a neurotic person. So you can also like stop eating in your car, stop eating in front of your screens, just like zoning out, right? Like put things on your plate, stop eating out of the bag or the carton. Like there are little behaviors and habits that you can start to implement that again have nothing to do with like tracking your calories or cutting food out. And that's where intuitive eating starts. So I have a 12-week one-to-one coaching Fat Loss Forever program that I'm actually launching next week. Enrollment's open, and then we start on August 4th. And there'll be another one as well, January of 2026. So if you're listening to this episode a little bit later, don't worry, there'll be another round. And what we work on in this 12-week program is building to that intuitive eating and giving you the tools to, yes, let's do an audit, see how many calories you're actually consuming, see what the behaviors are driving, or what emotions are driving those behaviors, what behaviors are also driving further behaviors, right? If you're staying up late on, screens or whatever, and then you're getting shit sleep and then you're waking up starving even more, it might be because you ate really late at night, which increases your ghrelin in the morning. And if you get bad sleep, you're going to be hungrier in the day. So again, like your behaviors are also triggering more behaviors. So we've got to work on what are these root causes that you can't just white knuckle your way through a diet and an exercise program without addressing these factors. So if you are interested in that program, definitely check my Instagram out at Kayla Marie Fit, Kayla Marie _fit, or shoot me an email or something. I am happy to answer your questions before you commit, of course. But I teach you all of this, a lot more detail, and I give you, your weekly tasks, your weekly workouts, your weekly nutrition goals. I check in with you every week, like all that good stuff too. So if you are interested in that, I'd love to see you on there. Otherwise, I will chat at y'all next week. I hope this helps, and maybe you can start just being a little more intentional and noticing some of these things and start your first step towards a more intuitive eating lifestyle. I'm here for you. All right, chat next week. Bye. Thanks so much for being here, friends. If you enjoyed this episode, please screenshot and tag me over on Instagram or leave a 5-star review wherever you are listening from. Your support means the world to me and only helps me get the no BS news out to more people. If you're interested in working with me in nutrition or personal training, check out my programs and courses on my website at kaylamariefitness.com and on Instagram at KaylaMarie_fit. See you next week.